Hey, Ubuntu is longer than people actually imagine. It's longer than people realize. It's actually the world's first philosophy, and it emerged out of Africa. So this is the world's first philosophy, and it comes out of Africa. And this system is a philosophy and the first introduction of a philosophy. And a philosophy is a system of reasoning that's based on principles. So Ubuntu is the first system of reasoning based on principles in the whole world. And this actually came out of Africa through different means. So this was a system that so many people came to learn from the people who were there. So Ubuntu is a Bantu word that means human nature. So it encompasses everything within human nature. So it encompasses everything in the field of humanities. So when we're speaking of all of the things in humanities, we're speaking of human nature and we're speaking of Ubuntu, which is the first philosophy in the whole world that came out of Africa. So the field of humanities is a field of Ubuntu, which is a field of philosophy, which is a system of ideas and ethics that are based on principles. So Ubuntu is a way of thinking with principles and basing your ideas on these principles. So when we are looking at humanities, all of the humanities in the world actually are the literature, the arts, philosophy, and religion. And when you look into the first definition of humanities, this was actually Latin and Greek. So all of the literature, the art, the science, the psychologies, all things that are in humanities are things that affect human nature. And these are the things that we call humanities, and these are the things that create our society. So Ubuntu is how the first society was actually organized. So this is what humanities are there for. They're there to organize the society. So this was a principle that is based on the ideas of humanities. So this was actually the first principle that was propagated, and this emerged out of the land of Punt. So when this principle was in Africa, it came from this land of Punt, right? So these people had this ability or this philosophy which created this humanity in the land of Punt based on what they used to call Hupantu. So this is what we call Ubuntu, Hupantu. This is from the land of Punt. So when the people were learning this, they actually taught it to the Egyptians. So the Egyptians recorded Ubuntu, Hupantu, as going to the land of Punt in order to learn the ways, in order to learn how they should actually conduct in society, conduct with other people in humanity. This is how they were trying to learn things like science, because Ubuntu is actually something that is metaphysical. So metaphysics is a field of study where someone is studying what is beyond physics. So someone like Plato and Socrates, these people are actually metaphysicians. So through this understanding of humanities, they got an understanding of medicine. So in the first definition of what humanities was, if you look in an older dictionary, it will tell you that humanities actually is a study of the language of Greek and Latin. So Greek and Latin actually were from the land of Kemet, which is Egypt. This is where they learned philosophy, humanities, and everything. So when you read about Plato and Socrates, when they write their own information about how they learned and how they actually are able to explain it, they actually mention where they learned the principles, the philosophies, and all of the things that they were integrating and forming into what we call Greek philosophy. So Ubuntu is basically the basis of Greek philosophy because it came out of the land of Punt, which taught the people of Kemet, which were the fathers of the people of Kemet. So they were teaching their sons, and the people of Kemet or Egypt or Kush were looking for how they could actually expand this understanding of Ubuntu. And this is how they went to places like the land of Punt, which is well documented in so many different sources. So this understanding is how the people were able to learn morality ethics, science, metaphysics, philosophy, language, psychology. And as you see, all of the people who were of influence were educated in this understanding, because this is the basis of all philosophy. This is the understanding of the principles by which reasoning is going to be based. This is an understanding that was very fundamental to any school of thought, because it was what created the nature or the natural within the human population. So all of the people who had this understanding were people who were learning human nature. So Ubuntu is something that pertains to human nature. This pertains to human understanding, and this pertains to how we relate as people. So one of the people who is famous for this concept is this man here. This is Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela lived for this principle. A lot of people had to die for what they stood for, but he actually lived for it, because he could have easily done something, but he actually spent close to 3 decades in prison because of this principle, and he's the one who promulgated it the most. So understanding his life and his struggle and his story, and understanding the principles that gave him the philosophy, the principles that give him the power, the principles that give him the recognition, is to understand Ubuntu. And to understand this is to understand what humanities are all about, because through this first principle, which was in the first societies within Africa, in the Land of Punt, this principle was expunged and it was expanded into ideas like the AU, which is the African Union. The League of Nations is trying to have a league of Ubuntu, a league of one-mindedness. So this principle means to have one mind, one course, and one idea. And through this is how the UN was made, the African Union is made, and everything is based on this principle. So this Ubuntu Hupantu is from the Land of Punt. This is from Africa, which is the place of the Egyptians' fathers, and from this place they were able to trace what it meant. So to have this power, this energy, this force, is to have intentions, is to have altruistic intentions behind every single action. So it's always about asking yourself how this affects the people around you. Ubuntu is about the community and the society around a person. It's about a person being a person through other people. So this is a very democratic way, but beyond that, it is a very spiritual way. So this is the basis of the religion, because religion is a human natural science. So this is the basis of all of these humanities, including religion, because do unto others as you'd want them to do unto you, as Jesus would say, or as Confucius would say, as you shouldn't do to people what you don't want them to do to you. So this is something that touches east and west and north and south, because this is a basic human nature, a basic human principle that is found in the Land of Punt. So the Land of Punt is in the heart of the southern part of Africa. This is the Land of Punt, and this is where the Egyptians say that they found their nativity. So this is the southeastern part of the land, which is where they actually landed, and they went into the heart of the southern part of Africa. So through this, they were able to understand their roots, their heritage, and they were able to understand more of the principles that they were taught and that they taught others in turn. So understanding this principle is very important and very powerful, because it touches everything that concerns our lives and our livelihoods. So thank you a lot, and see you soon. So I hope that your life is filled with this Ubuntu, this spirit, this energy, which is having the electricity, the thought, and the force, the momentum behind every single movement that you do. This is power, this is electricity, and this is true love. So yeah, so just show love in what you do, and what you do will show love to you.